3 years ago, and every once in a while you sort of feel the presence, but I don't know whether that's just because you want to.
They told him he was too old, 40 years ago. Now, at 94, Clint Eastwood is still making movies and dating a woman half his age. His wild morning routine starts at 5 a.m. with a workout that would destroy most 30-year-olds. He flies his own helicopter, hates birthday parties, and just bought another multimillion-dollar property simply because he liked how it looked. Hollywood's toughest cowboy isn't just surviving at 94, he's living a life so intense even his kids are amazed. Clint Eastwood wasn't always destined to be a legend. Born on May 31, 1930, weighing over 11 pounds, nurses called him Samson. Raised in a wealthy neighborhood in Piedmont, California, with 2 cars, a swimming pool, and a country club membership, he didn't exactly grow up poor. His mother traced their roots to the Mayflower. But despite the privilege, Clint's path wasn't easy. The rugged blue-collar image he later built was partly a survival act for Hollywood. He struggled in school, repeating a grade, more interested in cars and girls than books. Though teachers saw talent in him, especially on stage, he ignored their advice. He barely graduated, but there was one sign of the artist within. Clint could play the piano like a pro, practicing complicated pieces until his fingers hurt. That same discipline would later help him compose film scores for his own movies. After high school, he didn't leap into acting. Instead, he took on dangerous jobs, including taming wild logs in Oregon. One wrong move could kill you. Drafted into the Army, he worked as a lifeguard and even broke up a knife fight as a bouncer. In 1951, a Navy aircraft he was in crashed near Point Reyes. Clint swam over 2 miles through freezing, shark-infested waters, a moment he later drew from while filming Escape from Alcatraz. His acting career started slowly. In 1955, he had a tiny role in Revenge of the Creature, a B-movie where he played a nervous lab tech. The director hated the scene, and Clint only had 28 lines, requiring 15 takes to get it right. He earned just $75 a week. Universal almost cut the scene and eventually dropped him after 18 months, criticizing his slow speech, big Adam's apple, and chipped tooth. Burt Reynolds, who was also let go, joked, "You're really screwed. I can learn to act. You can't lose that Adam's apple." But Clint would return to that very studio years later, a millionaire and superstar. His big break came when CBS executive Robert Sparks saw him in the cafeteria and was struck by his look. A screen test led to a lead role in Rawhide. Ironically, the same traits that got him fired were now his biggest assets. Rawhide turned him into a national name, cracking the top 20 in ratings within weeks. Behind the scenes, though, it was grueling, long days in the Arizona heat. His pay skyrocketed from $750 to $119,000 per episode. Despite success, Eastwood was bored and desperate for change. That's when Sergio Leone, an unknown Italian director, offered him a low-budget western in Spain. Leone had tried to cast bigger stars but couldn't afford them. Clint took the job, figuring no one in America would notice if it flopped. Filming A Fistful of Dollars was chaotic. Eastwood didn't speak Italian, Leone didn't speak English. They relied on hand gestures and translators. Clint created his iconic gunslinger look himself, using his own jeans, boots from Rawhide, and a second-hand hat. He chose the poncho and cigars too. He designed the character to be silent and intimidating. Even though the character's name changed, Joe, Manco, Blondie, audiences saw him as the same mysterious man with no name. When the films hit U.S. theaters, critics hated them. The New York Times called The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly a repellent disaster. Time magazine mocked Clint's acting, saying he looked like a piece of wood. But audiences loved the trilogy. With a budget under $2 million, it made over $84 million globally. The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly alone pulled in nearly $39 million and over 44 million ticket sales. These spaghetti westerns sparked a revolution in cinema. Clint Eastwood didn't just become a legend, he took that title by force. His next leap came in 1971 with Dirty Harry. That role wasn't meant for him. Frank Sinatra, Paul Newman, John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, and Steve McQueen all turned it down. Newman even handed Clint the script, thinking it was more his style. And it was. That role solidified Eastwood as one of the greatest icons in film history. When other stars stepped back, Clint Eastwood stepped forward. He took the risk, brought in his own production company, and hired his own director. The film didn't just succeed, it exploded. Then, in 1978, he stunned everyone by starring in Every Which Way But Loose, a comedy about a street-fighting trucker and his pet orangutan named Clyde. Critics thought it would destroy his career. After all, this was Dirty Harry, not a monkey sitter. But Eastwood trusted his instincts. Despite being slammed by critics, the film made over $100 million, becoming his biggest box office hit. Even more surprisingly, the sequel grossed another $70 million. Adjusted for today, the two films raked in nearly $1 billion. Behind the laughs, though, was a dark reality. Clyde was reportedly beaten to death by his trainer for stealing donuts, a tragic ending to one of Hollywood's strangest success stories. That kind of risk-taking wasn't new to Eastwood. In 1975, while filming The Eiger Sanction, a movie involving deadly mountain climbs, tragedy struck when a climber from the crew was killed by falling rocks. As both star and director, Eastwood considered shutting the production down. Instead, he made a shocking decision. He would do the dangerous stunts himself. Hanging off cliffs and filming without modern safety gear, Eastwood risked his life at 44 years old to complete the film. It wasn't his first brush with death either. Years earlier, he'd survived a plane crash during his army days, swimming through shark-infested waters. He later admitted if he'd known about the sharks, he might have died from fear alone. Eastwood's confidence in who he was also saved him from making career mistakes. He turned down Superman in the late 70s, saying flatly, "That's not for me." He also declined the role of James Bond, which would have made him the first American 007. He knew his strengths. He wasn't the man in tights or tuxedos, he was the man with the squint and the gun. By the end of the decade, he wasn't just a leading man, he was a creative force with full control, thanks to his production company, Malpaso Productions. If a script fell off, he changed it. If studios hesitated, he pushed harder. When people mocked his comedy with a monkey, he made it work, and made a fortune. Clint Eastwood had been acting for years, but by 1971, he was done playing by other people's rules. He wanted to direct. Play Misty for Me became his directorial debut, and he went all in, no backup plan, no second guesses. While most first-time directors struggle, Eastwood delivered the film early and $50,000 under budget. He shot in his hometown of Carmel by the Sea, using real locations instead of sets. Even the soundtrack was personal. He paid just $2,000 for Roberta Flack's The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, which became a massive hit. The film grossed over $10 million and launched his directing career. This success wasn't random, it was years in the making. Back in 1967, disillusioned with Hollywood's rigid structure, Eastwood set up Malpaso Productions, named after the agent who once warned him that spaghetti westerns were a bad step. Ironically, those very films gave him the financial freedom to buy land near Malpaso Creek and build a creative empire. By the time Hang 'Em High debuted, his first film under Malpaso, he wasn't just acting, he was producing. The movie broke opening weekend records, and Clint Eastwood had officially transitioned from TV cowboy to cinematic powerhouse. What set Eastwood apart wasn't just his control, it was his process. While other directors shot scenes endlessly, Eastwood often got it in 1 or 2 takes. No yelling, no chaos, just quiet focus. He believed the first take had the most authenticity. Actors learn fast, show up prepared, or you might not get another shot. Jeff Daniels once said, "You have to be ready, it's 1 take." Matt Damon had to beg for a second. This lean, focused method helped actors like Hilary Swank and Gene Hackman deliver Oscar-winning performances. By the early 90s, Eastwood was already a legend. But Unforgiven elevated him to an entirely new level. The script, originally called The Cut Killings, had been passed around and rejected. Even Francis Ford Coppola couldn't get it made. But Eastwood saw its potential. He bought the rights and waited years until he felt old enough to play the part. At 62, the timing was perfect. Unforgiven grossed $159 million on a small budget and won big at the Oscars. It wasn't just a film, it was Eastwood's final stamp of cinematic respect. He honored his mentors, Sergio Leone and Don Siegel, in the credits, cementing the transformation of the gunslinger into a master filmmaker. A decade later, he gambled again with $1 Million Baby, a quiet, emotionally heavy film about assisted suicide. Studios were wary. Warner Brothers barely gave it a real release, expecting it to flop. But it broke through, earning over $216 million and sweeping the Oscars. Eastwood proved once again that he could handle dark, complex material and still move audiences. And the year before, he had already stunned Hollywood with Mystic River, a slow-burning tale of trauma and tragedy that landed Sean Penn and Tim Robbins Oscars, and confirmed Eastwood's evolution into one of the industry's most emotionally precise directors. Then came Gran Torino. No one expected nearly 80-year-old Eastwood to deliver one of the biggest hits of his late career, but he did. Playing a bitter, racist war vet who slowly finds redemption, the role felt like a worn, older version of every Eastwood character we'd ever seen. The film resonated deeply, grossing $270 million and becoming one of his most beloved works. Critics noted how Eastwood's mere presence carried the film, like the ghost of Dirty Harry haunting the screen. Behind all these successes was a method like no other. Eastwood didn't shout action, didn't run rehearsals for days, didn't believe in do-overs. 1 or 2 takes. Quiet control. He treated actors with trust and gave them space. Tom Hanks once joked Eastwood handled his cast like horses, because yelling could spook them. But that steady hand became his trademark. His sets were calm, focused, and highly efficient. The results spoke volumes. And yet, even after decades in the spotlight, Eastwood's life still held surprises. For most of her life, Laurie Murray, adopted and raised in Seattle, had no idea who her real father was. Neither did Eastwood. The woman he briefly dated in the 1950s never told him she was pregnant. Decades later, Laurie went searching for answers and found Clint. He welcomed her with quiet warmth. It wasn't a scandal, it was a connection. They bonded over golf, holidays, and soon she became part of the Eastwood family. But the public didn't know until 2018, when she appeared beside him at the Mule premiere, proudly introducing herself as Laurie Eastwood. Just like that, a 64-year-old secret stepped into the light. But for Clint Eastwood, surprises, risks, and reinvention were never the exception, they were the rule. In 1959, while married to Maggie Johnson, Clint Eastwood began a passionate affair with stuntwoman Roxanne Tunis. It wasn't just a fling, it lasted 14 years, and everyone on set knew about it. They didn't hide their relationship, which brought them a daughter, Kimber, though Eastwood kept that part of his life out of the public eye. Roxanne was more than a mistress, she genuinely cared for Clint and remained in his life even after the romance faded. When she passed away in 2023, Eastwood was deeply affected. She had been a constant presence for over 6 decades. Then came Sondra Locke, whose relationship with Clint started like a Hollywood romance but ended in bitter courtroom drama. They lived together for 14 years, even as Clint remained technically married. In 1989, Locke returned home to find the locks changed. The betrayal spiraled into a legal battle. Clint offered her a studio deal, but she discovered he'd secretly funded it to shut her down. She sued again, this time for fraud. The courtroom saw a different side of Eastwood, angry, defensive, and bitter. Though it ended in a quiet settlement, the emotional damage was irreversible. The two never spoke again. All the while, Clint had already begun another secret chapter. In the early 1980s, while still with Locke, he met flight attendant Jacelyn Reeves, who later became the mother of 2 more of his children, Scott and Catherine. Their birth certificates listed father declined. And the truth only surfaced in 1990 when a tabloid exposed the story. Locke reportedly had no idea. Jacelyn never sued or made a public scene, but as the children grew up, family tensions surfaced. Catherine's online outbursts and threats of legal action in 2024 reflected unresolved emotional scars. In his later years, Clint found something more stable with Christina Sandera, a hotel hostess he met in 2014. She wasn't a celebrity, just a quiet, grounded woman who shared his love for animals and environmental causes. They lived simply, rarely stepping into the spotlight, and by all accounts, she was fully accepted by the Eastwood family. Her unexpected death in 2024 from heart issues hit Clint in a deeply personal way. His public statement was brief, but those close to him saw the quiet devastation. Now at 94, the man once known for portraying icy loners has softened. As a father, he was distant and demanding, but as a grandfather, he's warm and playful. His daughter Francesca describes him as completely smitten with his grandkids, cheering them on at games, laughing, and not caring that he stands out among younger parents. That messy, blended, imperfect family has brought him a peace he long chased but rarely found. While most people at his age are slowing down or reminiscing in the sun, Clint Eastwood is still working. He recently completed directing Juror No. 2, a tense thriller about a juror who realizes he may have caused the very crime he's judging. The film is sharp, haunting, and stripped of excess, pure Clint. Despite speculation that this might be his final work, rumors swirled that he had already cast his next film. Retirement isn't on his radar. In late 2024, controversy stirred when a YouTube interview promoting Juror No. 2 mysteriously disappeared. The host, known as Magnus, said the video was taken down without explanation, sparking speculation that Warner Brothers pulled it due to Clint's bold remarks about political correctness and the #MeToo movement. The timing, just as the film hit select theaters, only fueled suspicions. Some believed the studio was protecting the film from potential backlash, while others saw it as censorship of a cinematic icon. Fans argued that a man with Eastwood's legacy, still working at over 90, deserved to speak his mind. Others speculated legal reasons were at play. Through it all, Clint remained silent, focused on the next project. According to his daughter Allison, he dislikes birthdays and doesn't want anyone bringing them up. He avoids parties, preferring to enjoy life quietly and stay immersed in his craft. That attitude defines who he is, never chasing awards or basking in fame, only chasing the next story. Even now, with decades behind him and few peers left standing, Clint Eastwood remains a man in motion, one who never let age, criticism, or controversy slow him down. As Allison once said, the biggest lesson he ever taught was simple: don't take life too seriously. That philosophy explains everything, from his refusal to celebrate birthdays to his relentless drive to keep creating well into his 90s.